In year one, the Detroit Lions under head coach Jason Ferguson went 8-9, a 5-win improvement from the previous year where the Lions went 3-14 as the league's worst team. We finished with a top 10 offense and defense in points per game, but we missed the playoffs and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl behind quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who won the Super Bowl MVP. In terms of re-signings and contracts, we're going to let Sam Laporta walk. I just wasn't impressed by his performance. We pick up the option for Antoine Kramer, who will probably be a starter at some point here in the next couple seasons. And we do end up bringing back Riley Moss, which I think was a key contributor to this year. Had 4 or 5 INTs on the season after being traded for. And here's your lineup going into the free agent market. So all the guys that were on expiring deals have left the team. Here is what the offense looks like. Obviously going to have Keon Caldwell probably grow into the number 2 receiver going into this next season. And we're going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot for now. But I'm thinking about moving Caldwell into the slot for this next season. And we're also going to put Mike Williams on the trade block. But we'll see if there are any takers for him. Not sure if there will be. I'm thinking about outside linebacker upgrades for sure. We definitely need to get better at defensive tackle. And I think we also need to kind of reset on special teams, going for a new kicker and a new punter. So here are the top free agents in the markets. There are a couple of different linebackers out there, some defensive tackles that are veterans like Grover Stewart is. So we'll see what the options we get out here are. I see Uchenna Nwosu here, who has already caught my eye for a guy that I might want to target. There's also DeForest Buckner and all the other guys, but here were the initial targets that we went after. Daniel Carlson, Uchenna Nwosu, Jake Camarda, Okereke, and Luke Schoonmaker. And so out of these, we get 4 out of the 5, all of them except for Daniel Carlson, but he ends up signing on the very next day. So we got all 5 of our first 5 targets. That will take away most of our cap room. So you fill in outside linebacker, you fill in punter and kicker, and you just fill in a couple spots that you really needed to go after. And then I'm looking at Nick Chubb here because the run game still isn't where it needs to be. Gibbs did not have the year that I wanted him to have. And so we're going to go after Nick Chubb to be a really solid backup option that maybe could play. And he does end up signing on a 1-year contract. And our final signing was fullback Andrew Minshew, who is 23 years old and is one of the top fullbacks across the entire league. Give him a small deal, obviously, as a fullback. But these were the rest of the signings across the league. We only got $14 million in cap room left. So I felt like we didn't really need to go after too much because I feel like the offense is mostly in a promising spot. Just want to maybe look at an adjustment at receiver in terms of getting rid of Mike Williams. But besides that, the offense does not need a whole lot of work. Maybe tight end could be a good option if there's draft or draftable players at that position, which there are. There's Andrew Ward and Brandon Porter, both round 1 projections. And we're going to use focus scouting on Porter plus Montre Burse, a left end, and Sidney Gilmore, a right outside linebacker. So first card here is for Porter. This dude is an elite athlete. Elite speed. He can really move. He is quick on his feet. He's going to outrun most linebackers for most teams. And he's just a really good overall player. Looks to probably be around Laporta's capabilities in his rookie season. So I feel comfortable targeting Porter in the first round probably. Then you got Montre Burse, a day 3 pick. Really good athlete, showing off some good strength and some good speed. He is mainly reliant on power moves, and that is kind of his only thing. He's kind of a one-trick pony. So we'll see about him. And then we got Sidney Gilmore here, who is more of a run-stopping outside linebacker. And he's also a really good athlete, high awareness, good tackling, and he also has some good power moves. So Gilmore could be a solid 1 to 2 round pick for us if we don't want to go the tight end route. But mostly on my draft board, I wanted to focus on our defense, on linebackers, and on the defensive lines. So besides the tight ends, you pretty much only have defensive tackles, ends, and linebackers out there. So that's the biggest makeup of this draft board. We go into the NFL draft, and the Bears have the first overall pick, and they will select the tight end Andrew Ward. Oh my God. I mean, he's a beast, no doubt. But you don't have to see a tight end going first overall. You saw one team go quarterback here. The Niners go right tackle for Aldridge. Jason Burton goes to the Chargers here, and the Panthers end up taking left tackle Torrey Baker. Next up was the Titans going for Ladarius Stallworth, who was also on our board. Bo Terrell at right tackle, heading over to Houston. Another safety goes top 10. And then the Jets take another right tackle, Roderick Jackson. Before us, the Cardinals select Kyle Newsome at defensive tackle. So now we're on the clock, and I felt pretty set in stone about going for Brandon Porter here, adding one more weapon to the offense for Antonio Fuller, and adding potentially the final piece that we need to really get this offense to where it needs to be. So we're going to draft Brandon Porter. He is hidden dev. He's got 87 speed. Strength needs some work, but he can really move when he gets the ball in his hands, and he is going to be a really fun player to watch and sim through. He's got a great attribute palette here, and can't wait to see what he can do. For the rest of the first round we go, picks 12 through 32. Looks like another linebacker goes to Cincinnati. And then a receiver finally goes, Ahmad Ellison. And then goes Sidney Gilmore. He is drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. Then the Colts take the first quarterback, or the second quarterback of the draft, with Bradley. Another left tackle goes. Then goes the Rams, taking a first-round quarterback here in Blair Murphy. Then the Browns go quarterback, taking Bobby Pearman. So now you're seeing some here middle first-round quarterbacks going to a couple of different teams. So last year, we seem to have really found a season where we waited to get a really good quarterback towards the latter half of this first round. And a lot more teams were looking for quarterbacks this year. Looks like the Raiders are going to go with Tatum here at receiver. The Saints go left guard out of Virginia. And the Dolphins take a safety, Bryce Spearman. Brian Flynn to the Commanders out of his home state. And then Chapman goes at 31. Pick 32 is Jackson Cox, the left tackle out of Oklahoma. Our next pick would come all the way in the third round. And here there was a linebacker. You know, there's obviously Montre Burst here at the top. But I saw a linebacker named Darnell Harding on our list. Round 3 to 4 projection. But in terms of his skills, I mean, A pursuit, A to C tackling, B zone coverage. He's 6'3", 21 years old. He's a physical player, gives bone-crushing hits, and he also has elite speed, good strength, elite acceleration. So if you want to go after a really fast, athletic linebacker that can really come into a zone, potentially as a run stopper, maybe a pass rusher, but mostly a run stopper, this is the guy you want. And we had a really poor... I know, actually, no, we had a decent pass defense this past, or run defense this past year. But to add to it, we're going to take Harding here with our third round pick. He is normal dev, so we'll see if his ratings actually match up to what we thought they would be. Burst goes the pick before us here in the fourth round, so we do miss out on him. But then we had another left end here, Henry Harvin, and he actually was kind of impressive on his draft card. He is a power rusher, 6'6", 268. B power moves, B tackle. He's a massive human being. He's also the fastest, or one of the fastest, to the 40-yard dash in left end. And he's also incredibly strong with a boatload of bench reps. So strength, speed. He's hidden dev. I took him. 82 speed, 84 strength. Yeah, I think this guy could really contribute here in a couple of seasons once he really comes into his own. Then we go into the fifth round, pick 11, and I saw another linebacker here, Nick Pope, who is more of a pass rusher, but power rusher, 6'5", 268, just like Henry Harvin, just plays a different position, and I took him also hidden development. 79 speed, 81 strength. I thought that his power rushing looked pretty good. He looked like a pretty well-rounded linebacker overall, so if he is better than Harding a little bit, he's already got a better depth trait, he might start over Harding if those two guys are the only linebackers on that side of the ball. Then we got a right guard here, Thomas Edmond, with 90 strength. And with 90 strength and an agile archetype, I thought that could be a really good starting point. Maybe you train him to be both, and then he's a really well-rounded right guard in, 2+ seasons. Later here in the 6th round, I wanted to go after corners because we were kind of thin there, and we have 2 back-to-back picks here. So our first one is Dom Chodris, a man-to-man corner who looks like he could really be a good man and zone corner after a couple of seasons. And then Juan Mullins here, another corner I thought was mostly zone, but I think you need guys like that who can have good zone coverage and also press their receivers pretty well. And then in the 7th, I ended up taking Ethan Morrow here at center, 84 strength. We'll see about him in the draft recap. And here we go. Brandon Porter is a 74 overall. Harding is a 73. So our first 2 picks were pretty damn solid. And also, you really did not have a miss in the draft. Edmond was a 65, but he was the lowest on this draft recap. So let's dive into Porter here first. And as we know, hidden development, 74 overall, vertical threat. Route running is pretty solid except for deep route. Awareness is high. Catching traffic. Spectacular catch, both in really good spots, and catching at 80 is a good starting point as well. So that plus the athleticism, very similar to Keon Caldwell in terms of what his first year might end up looking like. Caldwell had kind of a pretty down first year, I would say. So hoping for more from him in this second season. But Harding here is exclusively a run stopper, can't pass rush at all, but a really good athlete. We'll see if he ends up starting. For Henry Harvin here, he was the hidden left end that we took, and he is not going to be too well-rounded, but power moves are going to be his name to fame, and that is going to be his one-trick thing. Then we got Nick Pope here, who is much more well-rounded, 74 power move, 68 finesse, and 69 block shit. So can really do all 3 after a couple of years. 81 strength, good pursuit, tackling needs some work, but he's in a really good starting place, and I'm really thinking about starting him at left outside linebacker because of the hidden development, and the playing time could really get him up to like a 70 or 71 by year's end. Edmond here is pretty much a finesse blocker only, but the power is not honestly that bad, so if we can work on him, train him for a couple of seasons, he could really be a decent level starter maybe in year 3 or 4 if we're still with the Lions here. Now, Chodis here is a really well-rounded coverage player with just below 70 man in zone and also good play rec, while Mullins is exclusively a zone coverage corner, but both guys will probably end up making the team as they're pretty solid overalls, all things considered. So I'm happy with these 2 corner selections. I think they're going to have a nice boost to our secondary here over the next couple of seasons. For Morrow, he's obviously a depth pick, but he's got pretty good lead block. Strength will improve over the next couple of years. He is exclusively a finesse blocker. The power is not very good whatsoever, but the finesse is over 70 for all the traits, so that's pretty good. The first overall pick this year, after Keon Caldwell, ends up being Andrew Ward, the tight end, and he is a beast. Hidden development, 77 overall, 88 speed, spectacular catch at 87 is fantastic. And the best player in this draft was the safety Jason Burton, taken 4th overall by the LA Chargers. Decent coverage skills, really good man coverage, and really high acceleration and hit power. Probably going to cause a couple of fumbles, and the awareness was also over 75. We thought about drafting Sidney Gilmore here, but we went with the tight end instead. And he is a really good power rusher and could also just do everything. He's a well-rounded player and no real thing to be mad about in terms of his skill set. Montre Burst was taken in the 4th round just before our pick at pick 10. And he had 74 power moves, 78 tackle, good strength, decent speed, a 70 overall player, but he was normal dev. Keelan Caldwell has an upgrade point here before we jump into the preseason and all that fun stuff. So really hoping for a bounce back year. We are going to start him at the number 2 spot upcoming in this season. So we got upgrade points now for Paul Bobo as well, coming into his second season. And nice to have him be better, and will be some solid depth behind Campbell and our other middle linebackers. We end up going 2-1 in the preseason with a top 3 offense in points per game, but our defense was kind of lackluster, bottom half of the league, and the run defense was terrible. So in preseason stats, looks like Jordan Love and Fuller both played phenomenal football. In fact, Fuller had 5 touchdowns, no INTs. Both guys' ratings were astronomically high. So compared to last year for Fuller, that is a huge increase in production. Gibbs and Nick Chubb both had monster preseasons. 4.1 for Chubb on the ground, 7.1 for Jahmyr Gibbs. And both guys would score a touchdown. And Caldwell led the team in receiving yards this preseason. A huge difference compared to last preseason. Hauled in 2 touchdowns. Mike Williams was a yard behind him. Amon-Ra St. Brown 2 scores. But behind in yardage behind Caldwell Williams and Schoonmaker. So we'll see if that is going to be an indication as to what we're going to do here in this regular season. But Campbell leads the team in tackling. Okereke just behind him. Got a sack for Brian Branch and DeMarcus Whitehead. And a pick for Lynn Delmas and Gilbert Williams. And Carlson was perfect. But here are the cuts. We do end up cutting Jalen Boyle and Juan Boston. Boston was a rookie last year, one of our last picks of that draft. But he will miss out on the roster this time around. So here is your roster going into year 2. Cobb, Price, Ragnow, Williams, Sewell on the offensive line. Porter at tight end, backed up by Schoonmaker and Ciante Bulware. Amon-Ra St. Brown returns as the number 1. Caldwell steps in as the number 2, with Jahan Dotson behind him and Williams down to the 4th spot on the depth chart. So Jahan Dotson will step in as the number 3. Gonna have Gibbs backed up by Nick Chubb, Spellman, and Richard. Fuller as the quarterback, backed up by Jordan Love. And we're gonna have Minshew at fullback. So there is your offense. And now for our defense. Kirby Joseph at free safety. Brian Branch at strong safety. With Nwosu, Okereke, Campbell, and Nick Pope filling out the middle. So Pope's going to get the start this year, and Harding is going to miss week 1 thanks to a practice injury. But Pope will still start for most of this season. In terms of corners, you got Nate Hobbs, obviously, up to superstar. Riley Moss up to star, backed up by Dom Darby and Gilbert Williams. Then on the D-line, you got DeMarcus Whitehead, Aiden Hutchinson, and Stephen Graham. All of them are young players. Harvin will back up Hutchinson, and we're going to bring Paul Pope behind Whitehead. In terms of special teams, we're going to have Camarda and Carlson. Obviously, we already saw this. Nothing special here. And for specialists, we're going to have Caldwell in the slot this year in place of St. Brown. And we're going to have Dom Darby as the slot corner. So here we go, going into year 2. We're going to start off by choosing our season goal here. And we chose 4 last year, so I think this year it makes sense to go 7. Had 8 wins last year, a 5-win improvement. Don't want to go playoffs just yet because I'm just not sure what to expect. Early upgrade point here for Porter. Again, up to like a 75 overall. And there is an ability slot, which means that he's probably going to be a superstar or superstar X Factor. So you at least essentially confirm that his depth trait is above star. For Henry Harvin, we're going to get him to a 68 overall with that upgrade. Also got one for Nick Pope, so a couple of the rookies coming in have plenty of upgrade points. And we're going to use the same schemes as last year, not trying to change things up there. Just want to see how we do. And week 1, we lose by 3 to Ramon Payton and the Minnesota Vikings. Both quarterbacks threw a touchdown and no picks, although they had a lot more passing yards than we did. And their YPA was higher as well. We sacked Peyton 5 times, though. Both running backs had a rough day on the ground for both teams, and Gibbs looks like he fumbled the ball away. Jefferson and Addison both torched us. Marquise Brownlee was 3rd in the game. Our top receiver was Caldwell with 48 yards total. Amon-Ra St. Brown hauls in a score, but 3 sacks for Hutchinson, 1 for Nwosu here, as well as Grover Stewart, and a pick for Riley Moss, and a deflection rather for Hobbs and Moss. And Carlson missed a field goal, as did Alja Rosas, so both kickers missed one. In our next 2 weeks, we would fall to 0-2, but then come back with our first win of the season. Our second straight loss, though, came against the Denver Broncos, against Enrique Buckhalter, a match between the two quarterbacks, or two of the 4 rookie quarterbacks taken last year, and both guys played lights out. Buckhalter once again has more passing yards than Fuller does, and both ground games work together as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown led the game in yardage and had a touchdown. Looks like Porter hauled one in 76 yards, and Caldwell had 49 and a touchdown as well. So the 3 playmakers all scored, and 3 more sacks for Hutchinson, off to a really quick start to his season, and he gets Player of the Week for his 3-sack performance. We also take down the Packers in Week 3 for our first win this year. This is one of our better defensive games to start the season. Fuller, 271, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. His last 2 games, he has put together a phenomenal rating. So after kind of a decent Week 1, he's put together 2 straight really good games, and Caldwell has his best one so far in his career with a $128 through the air. Sack-wise, got 1 for Branch and Whitehead, as well as Nick Pope for his first sack in his career. Another 1 for Nwosu. No INTs, and Carlson was perfect kicking-wise. We got 2,500 XP for this win. We also got a breakout chance for Whitehead thanks to his sack in this game. So if he plays well against the Cowboys, then he could be due for a dev upgrade to Star Dev, which is way better than normal. So through 2 weeks, out of the gate, I mean, Fuller is not the issue. It's been the team. He has had 3 at least solid days, and 2 of them have been really fantastic rating-wise. Upgrade point for Whitehead going into this game against Dallas, and we get him up +2 power moves. And we do take down the Cowboys to move to 500 on the season. They almost came back in the fourth. Well, they were trying to come back in the fourth quarter, but by that point we were already blowing them out. Fuller put together his best game of the season through 4 weeks. 3 touchdowns, 4 INTs, and we picked off Dak 4 times. Gibbs ran the ball pretty well. Fuller ran a 4th touchdown in, so 4 total touchdowns for him. Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown haul in 2 scores apiece. Mary Gibbs caught 1. And on defense, a sack for Campbell. We don't get a sack for Whitehead. And do we get a tackle for loss? Yes, we do. Is that enough to get up to Star Dev? I think it might be. So he may have just got a dev upgrade here. Field goal wise, we only took PATs and he was perfect. And we had 2 INTs for Branch, 1 for Campbell, and 1 for Joseph. So those are where the interceptions came from on Prescott. And Jack Campbell returned 1 of them for a pick 6, and he gets Player of the Week because of it. So fantastic day for him. And DeMarcus Whitehead does break out huge for this defensive line. Because, you know, last year he had a kind of a promising season. He gets 10k XP as well as the dev upgrade. And the entire team gets 2,500 for the big offensive day. And now Kevin Bell comes around and says, because of Jack Campbell's performance last week, now he has a chance to break out. So a real chance to upgrade the defense here. Unfortunately, though, a huge loss. The free agent signing, Uchenna Nwosu, is out for 9 weeks, and we're going to have to put this guy in IR. And so in place of him, we are going to bring in a young linebacker, Kevin Knowles. He's been in the league for 2 years, 72 overall speed rusher, so there we go. But we're going to start Darnell Harding instead because he was a rookie. He's a 73 overall. Going to give this guy a shot while Nwosu is out. And we have a lot of upgrade points coming out of this win against the Cowboys. Not going to show any of them, but like half the team is ready to go up at least 1 overall point. So this is promising stuff. The team is progressing pretty well. And through 4 weeks, the Vikings are 4-0. We're 2-2. The Packers are winless. And we take down the Cardinals here in Week 5 in overtime. We came back in the 4th quarter, 17-3, and then we scored in overtime to secure the win. A great comeback here led by Antonio Fuller. Another great day passing-wise. We did not sack Murray at all, but Gibbs had a monster day, a 67-yard run and 141 on the ground, just below 8 per carry. Keon Caldwell, 2 more touchdowns, 102 yards through the air. He is really stepping up here in his second season. Dotson also made a grab for a touchdown. In terms of defense, we got no sacks for us, as we saw, and a pick for Riley Moss. So he is picking up where he left off last season. Had 5 picks last year. He's got 1 or 2 already this season. Campbell fails to break out, unfortunately, but we still got the win, and now we're going into a game against the 5-0 Cincinnati Bengals. So who wins this one? It's the Lions, 35-27, a barn burner, but we take them down. And Fuller once again is having a phenomenal stretch, man. A rating of 137, over 350 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. Didn't get sacked at all. Neither quarterback did. Looks like the run game for both teams worked out pretty well. And Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Caldwell both pop off for monster performances. Over 100 yards and a touchdown for each. Porter also hauls one in for a score. In terms of sacks, none for either team. No picks either. Pretty clean game, I would say. No turnovers, really. And just a couple of pass deflections. So coming out of this phenomenal 4-game stretch out of Fuller, we're going to upgrade him, and he is now an 85 overall with 4 superstar abilities. Needs 1 more slot to get up there. We enter the bye week at 4-2. The Vikings are 6-0, but we have a top 5 offense and a top 6 rushing defense. So we made some improvements, and so far things are panning out through the first chunk of the season. And Fuller has not thrown a pick this year. 15 touchdowns, 0 picks, over 1,500 yards, a rating of 130. Have you ever seen somebody play this well, taking care of the ball and just playing lights out? Gibbs also off to a great start this year. 4.6 per carry, over 80 yards a game, 4 touchdowns. Keon Caldwell off to a great start, over 82 yards a game for him. Amon-Ra St. Brown's doing better than last year as well. So overall, the offense is having a really just awesome start to the season. And the defense, led by Jack Campbell, is doing a pretty good job. Hutch has 6.5 sacks. We only have 1 for Whitehead so far, which did kickstart the breakout for him. And after like 10 sacks last year, really hoping for more from him down the stretch. Carlson is only 2 for 3 in field goals, but had 1 blocked and otherwise is perfect on PATs. So he's having a great season. We bounce back out of the bye week with 2 straight wins. We have put up 30+ points in at least 4 straight games. And we started here with the win against the Panthers, 35-7. Dominant showing on both sides. Fuller does throw his first pick of the season, but still had a great day passing-wise. He picked off Bryce Young twice. He had a really rough day. Gibbs, 4.5 on the ground. Chubb got plenty of carries and got heavily involved. Well, Caldwell racks in 2 more touchdowns and just below 90 yards. On defense, we got a sack for Hutch and for Whitehead. Good to see those two both getting more involved. And picks from Dom Darby and Nate Hobbs, who had 6 INTs last year. Carlson was perfect. Then we go into another overtime win, this time against the Raiders. And these 2 wins, by the way, the Panthers and Raiders, were both teams above 500. So really strong victories here in the meat of the season. Both quarterbacks played well here in this matchup. Josh Jacobs ran all over us. No surprise there. Even though with our top run defense, that's not shocking. He always puts up like 1,800 yards total on a season. And Gibbs did not get a single carry in this game. Not sure what happened. Maybe he got hurt at some point. But he didn't really play at all in this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a monster performance. Over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Another sack for Whitehead. So 2 straight weeks. Racking up 1 for him. And Carlson was once again perfect on PATs. No field goal attempts for him really through the season. Only like 3 through 8 games. Now we're facing the 4-5 Rams. And the Vikings are 7-1 coming in to this week. Caldwell has a 10 and breakout chance here because of Amon-Ra St. Brown's monster performance. And he gets 2,500 XP for his game. And we defeat the Rams. A close game here against a sub 500 team, but Fuller once again is just dicing people up, and he's really not making any mistakes. Rough game on the ground for us. Gibbs once again only 3 carries compared to 19 or whatever for Chubb. We had 68 yards to lead the way for Caldwell. Porter hauls in 2 touchdowns, the only 2 thrown in this game. But we get another sack for Hutchinson and Brian Branch, and a pick for Kirby Joseph, and Carlson once again perfect. But out of this game, a lot of injuries. We lose Hutch for 3 weeks, and we lose Gibbs for 9 weeks, which is going to knock him out for the rest of the season. Got to put this guy in IR, got to fill in a roster spot. He will not be back for the rest of the year, unfortunately for us. We'll see if Nick Chubb can step up, but in the meantime, we're going to bring in veteran running back Joe Mixon. So we are about 5 years now in the future compared to real life, so he is about 31 years old now. We're going to use focus scouting on a linebacker, corner, and defensive tackle, trying to still focus on defense in the upcoming draft. But our next 2 weeks would be wins against the Chargers and the Bears, both by 1 score. So 4 straight 1-score wins. One of those came in overtime. But against the Chargers here, I mean, Fuller is just, he is really surprising me, man. Every rating he has is like over 120. He is just popping off, man. Ground game does essentially nothing here against the Chargers, although Minshew does get a 1-yard touchdown as a fullback. And Chubb had plenty of receiving yards to actually pretty much lead our team. Mike Williams hauls in a score, a sack for Graham in this game, and a pick for Riley Moss to add to his tally, and both kickers were perfect. Then against the Bears, we blew them out in our first game. This was the second one. They almost came back and won, but we held on to win 35-32 on another just nearly perfect day for Antonio Fuller. Mixon had a huge run in this game for 72 yards. Chubb had 2 scores. A lot of scoring on the ground by both teams, really. As Caldwell hauls in 2 touchdowns, the first overall pick, Andrew Ward, goes off for over 100 yards in this game, but we do come out on top. Another sack for Graham and another pick for Riley Moss. That's like 3 in his last 4 games. And Carlson continues to be perfect. Then we take down the Chiefs in week 13. 28-24, the win streak only continues. We were 0-2, and now we're like, what, 9-2 coming in? Or coming out of this game? 2 more picks for Fuller, definitely his worst game of the season comparably in terms of, taking care of the ball. But he still had a good rating, very comparable to Mahomes. Chubb had a good day on the ground, 4.8 per carry, while Dowling and St. Brown both pop off for over 120 and at least 1 touchdown. Defensively, no sacks for us against Patrick Mahomes, and no picks either. Kubis to field goal, but Carlson was perfect for the Lions. He's having a great year. We come into this game against Seattle, 10-2. They are 8-4, but we have now finally surpassed the Vikings for first place here in the NFC North. But then we suffer our first loss since week 2. 35-14, a dominant game by the Seattle Seahawks here. Nathan Kinney tore us up, and Fuller now definitively had its worst game of the season against a really good team. 77.4. Kinney just completely tore us a new one. We couldn't get anything going on the ground, really. 3.3 for Chubb. Walker ran the ball pretty well, and Metcalf continued a really solid year for him with a $141. We got 2 sacks for Hutchinson, 1 for Whitehead, but no picks. We threw 2 more to Durham and Witherspoon, and the Seahawks take this one. A pretty crucial loss to have, but now we're going into a game against the 10-3 Vikings. Whoever wins this game takes first place in the North. They have the tiebreaker over us right now because they beat us in week 1. So it's a rematch of these 2 teams. Ramon Payne, we still have not defeated him with Fuller as the quarterback. We'll see if we can do it this week. But in this game, we got to pass the ball while we're coming off a pretty rough day passing-wise, our worst passing day of the season. So if we can just get back into where we were, then we'll have a win. And we do just that. 42-0. Absolute dominance of the Vikings here. Our first shutout win since the first game in head coach Ferguson's career. Fuller bounces back with his best game of the season. 4 touchdowns, no picks, 350, a rating of 150.5. a 10.6 YPA. But Ramon Payton did not play. It was Brad Mann instead because Payton is actually hurt. We'll see more about that later on. But we get a monster win and a monster day from Amon-Ra St. Brown. 3 touchdowns, 132. Caldwell had a really good day as well through the air. Dotson gets around 60 yards. A sack for Campbell, Whitehead, and for Darnell Harding, who is obviously starting right now. And Kirby Joseph got the single pick in this game, while Carlson hit all 6 PATs. But Jefferson in this game, 2 grabs for 17 yards compared to a $118 in week 1. And Payton has a broken toe, so he's out for 1 more week. But he has not played since week 12, I am thinking. Yeah, that is the case. Has not played for a couple of weeks, and Fuller gets player of the week for this win. But we still got to take down Ramon Payton against him because he's 3-0 against us. But Fuller, because of his game, gets a lot of upgrades for these next 2 games, and so do our receivers. This offense is well primed for these last 3 weeks of the season. And coming off this win, the offensive line, if we don't allow a sack here in this next game against the Niners, then they will all get 10k XP each. We can bring back Nwosu off of IR this week. He will be back. And now we got some contracts to think about here. A lot of guys are available to be re-signed. We have a lot of cap room as well, but this is a big year in terms of contracts and trying to determine who really deserves a spot on the future of this team, because we're right now on track for the playoffs. Gibbs is coming off here where he had 4.6 per carry, was doing fantastic stuff before he got hurt. And so I think he is worth keeping around, even though it might be around a 10 mil cap hit later on down the line. He will stick around because he is a huge part of this team. Jack Campbell as well on the other side of the ball. He is that just defensive leader for us. He's going to come back. Kirby Joseph wants more money, but I am willing to give him some more to keep him around. Aaron Cobb has allowed plenty of sacks in his first 2 years as a starter, and so he does not really have any interest in coming back, so why would you bring him back? I do want to bring Love back as the backup for sure, but he wants some more money, and not sure I want to give that much money for a backup when I don't foresee too many injuries to Antonio Fuller. Gonna withdraw a couple of things here for Kevin Knowles, Gilbert Williams, a couple of role players on the team, but I do want to bring in Williams at right guard again, but he wants to spend some more time to think things over. Then I withdraw for Hayward and Ed Rogers here, who does not have any interest in coming back. Same goes for Taylor Marshall. Abioka Riki, I think I just want to look elsewhere and go younger at linebacker alongside Campbell. Mike Williams, never really found a trade partner for him, so we're just going to let him walk. Jermaine Pratt, similar story as to Okereke. Joe Mixon, if he doesn't regress, maybe he might come back. Same thing for Chubb, but they're both going to be 32 years old next season. Gonna let Grover Stewart walk, but Carlson has been great this year, and I think he's worth giving a contract to bring in to be a really go-to kicker. But he wants to think things over. We take down the Niners, though, in a Week 16, 28-7. Another fantastic day for Fuller. Teams are just having some real problems trying to pick this guy off. The ground game does not do anything for both teams. Neither guy really had a major day. And passing-wise, nobody had a huge day here either, although St. Brown and Caldwell do lead the game in yards and touchdowns. A second and a half for Hutch, another sack for Nwosu. He's had a handful this season. And a fumble recovery here for Nwosu as well. So good job there. He also forced that fumble. And Carlson was perfect. But now with back-to-back games, not allowing a sack, which we did not allow there in that game, 10k XP for the entire offensive line. And this is huge for the guys that we just drafted, Ethan Morrow and Thomas Edmonds. So 2 upgrade points for each of those guys. And, part of my game plan here with these offensive linemen is that you need pretty much a constant rotation over the course of 4 to 5 year stretches, because you can't always keep the same guys around. You need a really good depth team and depth players to fill those holes if you lose a starter. And so this will surely help with that. Upgrade point for Price here, and He's having a great year. We're going to go with Agile here to make that better. We're going to try and rediscuss here with Joseph, and he will stay around for another 3 seasons. Love still wants some more money in terms of the bonus. And then Connor Williams will re-sign a 2-year contract with us. Carlson, going to offer a 3-year deal. He will stick around as well. So the key signings have been brought in. But now week 17, going on the road in Green Bay. Here's what the playoff picture looks like. We currently have the 1 seed. The Vikings are the 5. If we win, we might secure it. And we do beat the Packers 21-13. Another just really solid showing. Put up all 3 scores there in one quarter. 3 touchdowns, no INTs, just below 200 passing yards. He picked off Langley once, sacked him twice. 5.1 for Mixon on the ground. Efficient day for him. Nobody had a massive day receiving-wise, but St. Brown had 2 touchdowns. We had a sack for Hutchinson and a pick for Nate Hobbs. And we got the win and a nice, perfect day once again for Carlson. We do secure the 1 seed in the NFC with a 2-game lead over the Seahawks at 11-5. We are 13-3. So back to negotiations. Jordan Love is going to test. He even made a spite up in the bonus. He wants more money. But we end the year with a win against the Bears, 35-7. A dominant performance over them. 3 touchdowns, no picks for Fuller. 146 rating, 223 through the air. We picked off Jonathan Torres twice. Both ground games were all right, but nothing special. And receiving-wise, Amon-Ra St. Brown, $106, 2 touchdowns. Porter hauled one in and 44 yards as well. Caldwell only 28 in the final game of the season. Had a couple of half sacks and 2 picks for Dom Darby and Riley Moss, who continues to show us what he can do with his hands. As Carlson missed a field goal, but we finish 14-3 with the 1 seed, a top 2 offense, a top 6 defense. And we also have the best rush defense across the entire NFL. So we improved on a lot of things this season. And Antonio Fuller was absolutely amazing, dude. I mean, 42 touchdowns, 5 picks. Look at that rating, 127.7. That is elite stuff. This dude, compared to last year, had just a monster second season, man. Last year, 29 touchdowns, 14 picks, less yards, a rating 30 points lower. I mean, everything was better. Every single stat was better on less attempts too. Can you believe that? That is absolutely incredible. Rushing-wise, things are pretty much the exact same for him. But for the ground game, we had a lot of guys obviously get plenty of carries. Chubb and Mixon kind of split carries down the stretch with Gibbs being out. But, I mean, nobody was really bad. Chubb was the worst, I guess, per carry. So Mixon has been really good for us. So he will be in line for a start here in the playoffs. But Amon-Ra St. Brown really stepped up this year. A huge uptick in production compared to last season. Keon Caldwell, same story, man. He's up to over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, and up to an 85 overall. He had almost twice as many receptions, yards, and touchdowns this year. Everything was up for him, way better than his rookie campaign. He's no longer a bust in this series. Amon-Ra St. Brown compared to last year, same story, man. Miles better. And Jahan Dotson caught 500 yards, 2 touchdowns. Porter hauls in 6 touchdowns for over 500 yards in his rookie season. Cobb had 13 sacks, by far the most allowed on our team. And that's why he's going to not return next season. Campbell was an absolute killer on defense. So was Hutch with 13.5 sacks. Only 5.5 for Whitehead. So trying to find some better pass rush here, which could definitely help out the secondary and this overall pass defense. But a lot of picks for Moss, just like last year. He only had 2 recoveries for Nwosu and Darby in terms of fumbles, and a touchdown for Campbell. That was the only one we had all year long. Carlson ends up perfect on PATs, but 3 for 6 on field goals, 1 of which was blocked. So technically 2 for 4 on field goals. Hardly any attempts for him. Shocking, I know. Joe Burrow leads the entire league in yardage, while Fuller leads the entire league in touchdowns. But Fuller is way behind in yards compared to the top couple of passers, so he's probably not going to be able to win MVP or any kind of award despite this elite season. In terms of INTs, Fuller is not even close towards the top, but Alexander and Baldwin and Buckhalter, all three of the other quarterbacks are all up there, but Fuller is not. So we might have the best quarterback out of that bunch. He also leads the entire league in rating in terms of quarterbacks who actually played for the majority of the season. So once again, Fuller had just a spectacular showing here. In terms of rushing, Najee Harris, most touchdowns. I think that was Jacobs with most yards. Most fumbles, Tyjae Spears for the Titans. And receiving-wise, Marquise Brown leads the league again, I think, right? Isn't it the second straight year doing this crap? This is whack, man. Amon-Ra St. Brown, top 5. Love seeing that. He also led the entire league in touchdowns with 19. So he was scoring a lot. In terms of sacking, the Bears had the worst tackle in the entire league. It was all left tackles up there. Maybe Cobb should stick around. Who knows? We have options that we can fill in there. So who knows what's going to happen. But for tackles for loss, Parsons up there. Sack leaders, not really any standouts here in sack-wise, so I guess we can't be too upset with Hodge at 13.5, which was top 10 in the entire league. 7 picks for Diggs, 5 for Charvarius Ward now in Indianapolis. Field goal-wise, Lutz was almost perfect in both field goals and PATs. But here's your playoff bracket. The Eagles, Seahawks, and Panthers are the 2, 3, and 4. So they're facing the Giants, the Cardinals, and then the Vikings. We're the 1 seed. The Raiders are the 1 seed over in the AFC. And we already beat them once this year. So we'll see what happens. But we're going to face the Giants here in the first round. As they upset the Eagles by 1, 35-36. A lot of high-scoring games here. But the Eagles lose by 1. A barn burner here. Brady McDowell popped off a near perfect day for him. 23 for 26. 3 touchdowns. Barkley had a really good day. And Jesus, Chauncey Hancock, a $140 and a touchdown here in the playoffs, man. That's impressive. What about their defense? A sack for Stephon Steele. So, a good defense, I guess. We have a good defense too, but their kicker missed a field goal. They're 9-8. We have a top 2 offense, a top 6 defense. Can we take them down? I really hope so. I don't want to have a one and done year after a 14-3 record, right? Let's talk about the playoffs, though. We're going to do a press conference. How important is your first playoff win? We're going to play this one cool. Not going to guarantee a win or anything. We're going to say every game is important. This game is no different. Upgrade point here for Porter before the game. He's up to an 80 overall now thanks to the upgrade point. And we do confirm that he is a superstar dev player. We might have a really scary offense on our hands next year, because imagine this dude having a similar jump as to Keon Caldwell last year. That would be incredible. We can't bring Gibbs off IR. As I said, he's done for the season, unfortunately. So he'll not be coming back anytime soon until next season. But in this game, we take down the Giants 17-3. One of our lowest offensive output games this year, points-wise, but we held them to only 3 points. Fantastic job against Saquon Barkley. Fuller did not play very well. Pick, no touchdowns. His worst game rating-wise all year long, including the entire regular season. The ground game for either team wasn't very good. It was a very defensive battle here, but our defense came out on top. We scored when we had to. Caldwell led us in yards with 50. Had a sack from Graham and Hutchinson, and picks from Campbell and Riley Moss, both guys who had multiple during the season. And several tackles for loss on Barkley as well from several different defenders. So a really good effort here on defense to get this win. Carlson was perfect, and Campbell gets Player of the Week for his INT in this game. Our GM says, huge congrats on the playoff win, and we get 7 staff points because of it. But now we're facing the Vikings again. Our third game against them. We split games back in the regular season. We lost the one against Peyton. We won the one against Brad Mann off the bench in a blowout win. But now here's the real test because Peyton is playing in this game. So here we go against our division rival opponents in the NFC Championship game. The winner makes the Super Bowl. The winner will face the winner of the Chiefs and Jaguars over in the AFC. And the Lions come out on top in another close one, 20-17. Another game where the offense is held to below their usual numbers, but the defense holds out, and we get the win. Fuller steps up, 2 touchdowns, no picks, passed the ball pretty well. Ramon Payton did not pass nearly as well as he usually does against us, and this defense, less than 200 passing yards. And we had 58 yards for 4 to lead the way. We held Jefferson to only 30 yards and a touchdown. Feel good about that. Defensively, we had 2 more sacks for Sidney Graham, who is having a really strong end to his season. Sacks on almost every game to end these last 7-8 weeks of the year. And in this game, we had a phenomenal rush defense, 2.1 per carry, by the way, from Minnesota. So we get the players of the week across the entire NFC because there are only 2 teams left. And now we're in the Super Bowl against the Jaguars, who are the 7th seed, and they took down the Chiefs by 27-24. So what the heck happened in this game? It was a very close one. Both teams close in yardage and points. They were trying to mount a second half comeback, but it fell short against Jacksonville. And Trevor Lawrence had a phenomenal day, man. A great rating of 143. The ground game worked for him. But will it work against us? We'll see about that. Receiving-wise, Kirk and Bailey both had nice days with over 70 yards and a touchdown. And they had a sack from Danny Woodard. But not really much else on the defensive side of the ball. So it was the offense that won in this game. And that is our opponents for this next game, which we're not going to get into until next episode, folks, because we are somehow speed running this first team. We are in year 2 with the Lions, and we are in the Super Bowl pretty much because of Antonio Fuller, who, as I have said, has just completely blindsided me with his with his year. I mean, did you see this coming? I don't think so. We have no Pro Bowlers because we're obviously can't play any players in there, so nobody on this list for us, but here are the rest of the nominations for both the NFC and the AFC. Kenny ends up winning MVP, and Fuller was only in 4th place behind Jackson and Burrow, and it's because of the passing yards, man. If he has more passing yards, then he wins MVP, but he doesn't, so Kenny instead gets it. Jason Ferguson gets Head Coach of the Year. That's not shocking to me. I think we deserved it. And now we're going to go through the player awards for the AFC. Crosby, Depoy, Kurt Marshall for Tennessee wins O'Roy. Jason Burton at safety wins D-Roy. Best quarterback to Lamar. JT, best running back. Rice receiver. Myles Garrett, best D-line. Crosby again. Ward. Then Lutz. Now for the NFC. Kenny obviously wins Offensive Player of the Year, just over Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's interesting. Fuller in 7th down there somehow, despite his elite season. Micah Parsons, Depoy. That's not surprising. And Blair Murphy, who we played earlier this year for the Rams, he wins Offensive Rookie of the Season. Kyle Newsome for Arizona gets D-Roy. Kenny wins Best Quarterback over Fuller. Again, like, come on, man. Fuller deserves at least one award here, right? Give this guy some goddamn XP. But he does not win anything. Kenneth Walker wins Best Running Back, so the Seahawks just are kind of sweeping us in some of these. Amon-Ra St. Brown, though, Best Receiver. He will go up to X Factor because of that. Penei Sewell, Best Offensive Lineman. Connor Williams right behind him. Parsons, Best Defensive Lineman. Rashawn Gary, Best Linebacker. Trayvon Diggs, Best Defensive Back. And Sanders, the Best NFC Kicker. And now you're seeing that Amon-Ra St. Brown does go up to X Factor. And this is great because this will apply for the Super Bowl. So huge upgrade for him after a monster bounce back year. He finally gets on the same page with Antonio Fuller. And look what it's doing to our team, man. Kirby Joseph goes up to superstar now after his phenomenal season. So I'm glad I kept him around last year. Nick Pope ends up being a star def player. Wasn't, very impressive, really. Only had 3 sacks this year. But, at least he is up to like a 75-ish overall after being at 66 coming in. And then Brian Branch also goes up to X Factor. Another huge get for this team going into this Super Bowl against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now we got the depth trait upgrade, or the depth trait reveal for Henry Harvin, who did not play enough to have it revealed during the season, but he is a star depth player, so we know about him now. But Trevor Lawrence, Etienne, this roster for the Jaguars is pretty damn solid, and it's not going to be easy, I don't think. In fact, we haven't even watched a game with this team yet because we haven't been here yet, so it's our first time seeing us on the field, seeing head coach Ferguson lead this team in the playoffs too, so it's going to be a very interesting matchup, but they have a really good secondary, as they typically do, so we got a game plan for this as well. What would a win mean to you? Asked this reporter. I want to say everything. This is not just the beginning because, secretly, if you win, I'm out of here. So this win truly does mean everything to me and this team. But against the Jaguars, they pass way more than they run it, but they are worse at passing than running. So do you trust the pass rush, or do you game plan for their passing? I think what I'm going to do is defend the medium pass here. And then, in terms of the offensive game plan, they are really good in pass defense, bad in rush defense. So why not trust Mixon, run this ball outside, and push it down these guys' throats? So that's the game plan going in. Upgrade point for Penei Sewell here. Don't usually show the ones for the really high-rated players, but for him, I will do power because he needs some strength here, and we get a couple of pass block upgrades here for him, which is fantastic. Then we got one for Kirby Joseph. I wanted to go hybrid here. He's up to a 81 overall hybrid safety, but with a lot of morale and temporary boosts. Sidney Graham coming off a really strong year. 9 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 34 tackles, huge uptick compared to his rookie season. But here's who we're going to miss: Cobb, Williams, and Gibbs in the Super Bowl. So Antoine Kramer will step in as the left tackle. He's been the backup right tackle all year long, but he will start in the Super Bowl. But here we go. This is your lineup going in. The team looks dangerous, and I just can't wait to see this team on the field. No matter what happens, even if they play like shit, I just want to see this team play because this looks like a very, very fun roster and a very, very great roster at that as well. So that is the episode, folks. That is season 2. Did not expect us to do this, to turn this around this fast, but maybe we're done with the Lions here after only 2 full seasons. We're going to find out next time, guys. Thanks for watching. The Super Bowl is next time. I'll see you guys there.